housing. So this is just a caveat onto that to ensure that people just know the basic information and what it takes to become a homeowner. So that's another reason why we wanted to present this to you guys today.
All right, well, thank you. Emily, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Everly McNeil. I've been with the team for about a year now. I've been an agent for 2-ish years. And it's nice to have you all with us today.
Well, thanks, Everly. And I guess last but not least, myself, Lisa Gilmore. I have been with the team. We started the team about 3 years ago. I've been in real estate for 16 years, and I've seen the ebbs and flows of all the different markets that we could possibly see. So it's an honor for me to be able to go through this process and to make sure that we're having educated home buyers. So, Gil, all right, I don't have my clicker, so I'll be clicking on my own. Before we get started, we do want to have a brief, well, we already did kind of a bit of a welcome. And let's talk about understanding the home buying process. So there's benefits of home ownership and advantages of owning a home. I went too far. There we go. So benefits of owning a home. One of the best benefits that I can think of is that this is your way to build wealth. The average consumer, the average family, the quickest way you can build wealth is through your home. You purchase a $250,000 house, a $500,000 house. What's interesting about buying a home versus any other debt that you will incur is that there's a mortgage placed on this home, but every time you pay your mortgage, you are paying yourself back, because every time that payment goes in, it goes towards your equity in your home. So you're actually building up your wealth. And the majority of homeowners have a lot of their wealth in their houses. And you'll be able to do that. Other advantages to owning a home, Lonnie, what do you think? Taxes, you get decent tax write-off?
Well, yeah, you do get a tax write-off, but also, I think I'm gonna segue, to continue what you talk about as far as the home ownership, and the wealth building. So when you build up the equity, then it's just gonna give you an opportunity to leverage that home into doing other things. So it's almost like you could look at your house as almost like a savings account that you're paying yourself back into on a monthly basis. So once you reach that 30-year mark, you may have paid $250,000 for the house initially, but generally, with real estate, we see that the market goes up and that the demand for that house that you may have purchased or the property continue to go up versus it going down. So you're going to see like a $250,000 house today, it could potentially be worth anywhere from 300 and went up. I mean, like for instance, like when we bought our house in 2007, we paid like $240,000 for it. And the same house today, there's properties in our neighborhood that are selling for 400,000. So
Right.
I mean, it's like it's an investment not just in you, but in what your legacy and what types of things you can do as far as leveraging that property. Taking out a HELOC. Maybe you want to consolidate debt. Maybe you want to take the opportunity to I don't know,
Buy rental property.
buy rental properties, reinvest that money that you created from that equity, and just generate and continue to build onto that. So that way, we talk about it a lot of times, generational wealth. That means that you have some type of legacy to leave to those that come after you.
Okay, good point. Also, some of us have children getting ready to go to college. Having a home is a great way to leverage that without coming out of pocket from your direct bills. So, all right. Mary, did you want to share, or Emily, anything that you could think is another benefit for home ownership?
Yeah, I think you guys spoke on it pretty well, and some of the people that may be on this in the meeting or on the call today may see that as definitely a benefit, especially when you look at landlords who, if you are renting, which is nothing wrong with renting, renting definitely is a stepping stone or step down stone, just depending on where you are in your life. But you better believe your landlord is reaping the benefits of every month that you make your mortgage. At the end, you could live in someone's home for 4 or 5 years, and all they do, if you're lucky, you get your security deposit back. But if you're unlucky, you know what I'm saying? They pat you on the back. So they say, thank you for paying my mortgage for the last 4 years. And that is equity that they have created in their home. So now it's time to take some of that power back and put it into your own pocket.
Yes, I would also add to a little bit what Mary said. And home ownership is about having stability and security. So when you own a home, you're gonna feel stable, secure. You don't have to worry about your rent increasing randomly. You'll have your rent is sorry, your mortgage is probably gonna be less than your rent. And you also have control over your living space. So you can customize your home to however you like. So there's just more options.
And I think that, what you just said right there, Emily, raised a very good point. So I've talked to a lot of clients where they're renting they currently or previously were renting. And with a lot of those properties, like right after COVID, we saw rent prices increase dramatically. Some of them like up 50 to 100%. So I have one client, they were saying that they were renting for like $1,100 a month, and that rent went up after COVID. It went up to $2,100 a month. So it's a drastic increase in their rent. And one of the things is that we see a lot of other and on the flip side of that, we see a lot of landlords that are taking the opportunity, because we have a market where there's not as much inventory out there, that we see landlords that are selling those properties and setting up a situation where they're taking advantage of a 1031 or some other options that they may have, or just taking that money and using it to invest into a larger property for themselves, or more investment properties.
Well, you bring up another good point. So owning a home is recession proof.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons why I say that is once you own it, you don't have, unless you went and got a loan to actually adjust, which we're going to encourage you not to do that. Your payment and everything is fixed. So no matter what happens in the environment, whether inflation goes up, whether the mortgage rates go up, where you're at in your home is where you're going to stay, and you'll be able to pay on your home, accrue that value, and keep earning on your investment.
Better just use arrows.
Maybe so, because I'm not very good at this. So we talk about the importance of good credit and saving for a down payment. I think when we talk about the financial preparation, again, we are not lenders, but we have several great lenders that we work with who actually can really break this down a little bit for you. But the big thing that we'll tell you is that you want to mind your credit. Your credit is like a newborn baby. You have to nurture it, you have to take care of it, and you have to be very aware of what's affecting it. What we have seen, when you go to a lender will say, oh, we have a minimum score for you to get a loan. And that's great. They can go pretty low. 580, there's some lenders that can do that. Most lenders are around that 620 range. But what they don't tell you, or what you'll learn as you go through it, is that the lower your credit score is, the more you pay.
Meaning that they have a higher interest rate.
Your rate's higher, there's fees attached to it because everything is considered risk.
And somebody with a higher credit score is considered less
risky. Mm-hmm. Also, the amount of money that you put down on the home may depend on where you are in that credit. So when you're looking at your credit, thinking about how you want to start preparing for a house, start thinking about paying your credit down so you can get your score as high as possible. It opens doors for you. And
I think the other thing is like to keep in mind that you don't want to make the decision or make the determination on your own, because you don't want to just start closing credit accounts, because that could have an adverse effect on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So that's why it's very important that you speak with a qualified lender that, like Lisa said, we have access to several, so we can point you in the right direction. So that way you can start formulating a game plan on as to what direction that you want to go in and what's going to be the best outcome for you as moving forward.
Yeah, one of the things that we'll do when we sit down with you as an agent, we'll talk to you about your thoughts and what's happening with your situation.
Mhm.
The next thing we're gonna do, if we can't even do it at the same time, is have you speak to the lender. That lender will look at your financial profile and they will tell you what your game plan should be and work with you to do that. They actually have tools that can tell you what actions you can take that will give you the best score.
Mhm.
And it may be a couple things, it may be paying down one credit card versus two credit cards. It may be shifting some of your debt to different ways. It may be just taking your name off of something that you jointly own. Whatever the case may be, they have a tool that
Tools, yeah.
can actually calculate all that. And then they have like a rapid rescore where they can immediately see what that does for you.
So even to the point of saving for your down payment, generally, we're going to suggest to you, how much would you say to be an adamant amount? I usually tell people that you want to save
10%?
10%, about 10% down, save 10% for your down payment. That's going to include your closing costs and other things, because some of the other things we'll get into this a little bit deeper detail as we're going along is that you want to have money set aside for an appraisal. You want to have money set aside for home inspections. You want to have money set aside for any little incidental things that may come up as you're going through the process. So,
It should be over. That way. So mortgage pre-qualification. So this is where the lender comes into it. And what's really nice about lenders is that they want to make sure that when you go out and look at houses, you can afford the house. We want to make sure of that. So one of the things that we require when you go out, when we meet with you, is to find out who your lender is. If we don't have a lender, we can actually connect you with several. But the idea is that we want to find out exactly what your mortgage you're comfortable with. And, you know, it's interesting. You could be qualified for a certain amount. Doesn't mean you want the payment to match that qualification. And that's okay. A lender will tell you what you're qualified for, but you may say, hey, I'm qualified for 500, but I really want to stay in the 420 range because that gets my payment a certain way. And you absolutely can do that. We do not want you moving into a house and feeling tight, because what it looks like on paper may not be in practicality what it looks like. You know, they're looking at your debt to income ratio, but you know all the little things that come up in life, your kids, your family, and you might want to take a trip every now and then. So you want to make sure that those are involved. And as your agents, our job is to make sure that everyone's talking the same language and we're giving you what you want within your budget.
and so some of the things that you may want to be prepared for when you get ready to set up for that pre-qualification is you want to obviously know your social security number and have any other information that the lender may require. A lot of lenders now, they're going to go send you to an app where you can fill out an application or an app on your tablet phone or a link that they'll send you to, and then that way they'll have you fill out an application. That way they can start the process of getting all the information that they need in order to get you pre-qualified. Go from there.
And what they call that is a soft pull. And what that means is when they first initially work with you, it's a soft pull. It actually does not affect your credit. It would be very similar if you went on Credit Karma or if you went on Lending Tree or something like that, and they pre-qualified you. Once they have gotten that and then they've gotten your work history, they have an idea of what you can qualify for. If you want to go ahead and move forward, that's when they actually do what they call a hard pull, once you decide who you want to work with.
Right. So the other thing to keep in mind is that a pre-qualification does not equal a pre-approval, because a pre-qualification is like Lisa was saying, is a soft pull. So it's not going to go as in depth in your credit history or your history in order for them to really be able to give you a solid hard line number. So Please keep that in mind as you're shopping for a loan, that a pre-approval has more weight to it than a pre-qualification.
Right, the pre-approval is they've gotten your taxes, they've gotten your work history, they've actually done the hard pull on your credit. And in some cases, they're already sending your packet of information to a underwriter who's gonna actually say, yes, we can definitely do your mortgage. And the reason why they do that is that this is a competitive market. Our industry is seeing the
Lowest level of
yeah,
inventory.
so our lowest level of inventory in years. So we want to make sure when we're out looking for houses and you find a house that fits all your criteria, we want to make sure you can get it. And so we work hand in hand in tandem with the lender to make sure that that all works out. And also keep in mind, you may get a pre-approval from that lender. Before we have you put an offer on a house, we will actually have them run those numbers again, just to make sure that that particular house fits into what you want.
Meaning like your monthly payments and so on and so
Yep.
forth.
Oh, look, we jumped ahead. How you like that? Difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval. The benefits of a pre-approval.
I think I covered that.
Yeah, I think we did. If I move on. Yeah. So I think we covered pretty much the benefits of the pre-approval and why it's important to make sure that you have your ducks in a row. Now we go to the next part. The next part is choosing a real estate agent and why you need one and how to find the right one. So if you're on this seminar, we're hoping that you're at least considering us. So to help you with your needs. But the best way I can say about a real estate agent is you need somebody to be your advocate. You need someone who's also impartial in the process, meaning that we're not going to live in the house with you. We're going to take in your information. We work for you. We're going to take the information, what you want, and we're going to be able to look at a house, help you make the best decision. We're going to gather information for you. We're going to make sure you're making the best decision with the information that we have.
So I mean, a lot of times I liken it to like a painter. Everybody can pick up a can of paint, pick up a brush, and paint something. But in the same note, if you want it done correctly or have a certain look to it, then you want to make sure that you hire a professional, somebody that does it every day. So as a real estate agent, we study what it is that we need to know about the industry. We know what the trends are in the different areas that you want to live in. So it's important that you have somebody that can help guide you into what direction is going to best suit whatever goals you have in mind. So it's like, again, we're not going to tell you like you should do this, you should do that. But in the same note, we're going to help give you the information to help you make the most informed decision that you possibly can.
Yeah, experience is made for great stories. So what we try to do, and we do this, I think, fairly well, is we bring out the stories that we've dealt with, and we can actually help you make great decisions based off of some of the things that we've seen happen. So some of the things we're seeing in the market. We like to call our appointments with you our strategy sessions because we want you to win. We want you to win the best house. And so we take all our experience and we use that to help you get in the best possible position to buy a home.
And when we talk about win, we're talking about like what's important now for you in this current moment. So it's not necessarily like when we say win, it's like winning a football game, but it's more about figuring out what things are important for you right now. What's going to help you deal with the situation that you're in. Maybe you just had an addition to your family. Maybe you had a in-law or a parent that had to come live with you. You may be in a situation where you have to get a bigger house. So it's like we're talking about what things are important for you right now. That's what we're going to do during our strategy sessions.
Right. Mary, you want to share anything?
Yeah, I wanted to add in just like everyone, when you think about buying a house, a lot of people don't think about the new construction situation. So a lot of people think it's just about resale. I'm just going to buy a house and then I'm bidding against other people. Well, there's moments of that, but there's also times when you decide, hey, I want something new, and that's a different situation than buying a resale home. It still falls under all the guidelines of, the contract, but it's a different scenario when you're talking to a builder. And when you're talking to a builder, they hold a lot of the cards. The great thing is that you aren't really negotiating against someone else. It's pretty much going in there and making sure that you know the information that the builder is providing, and figure out what the right questions are. Because your agent is your advocate. They don't know everything, but they definitely need to know the right questions to ask the builder or the constructor in order to make sure that you get all the information that you need to move forward.
And Mary, you bring up a very good point. I like the way that you said that. Like, your agent is your advocate. So whether you're dealing with new construction or another listing agent, we're your advocate. We're the ones there that are going to make sure that the things that are important to you, the things that the questions that we're asking, and making sure that we're putting you in a situation where you can come out on the other side happy. And this, what our number, I can tell you, can't speak for all real estate agents, but I can speak for the Gilmore Property Group. We all have the same mindset where we want to make sure that whatever your goals are, they become our goals. So that way we can make sure that we're putting you in a situation where it's going to be right for you. Anybody can sell you a house, but it takes a special person to make sure that they're aligning with what your goals are, with what you're trying to accomplish, and making sure that we're staying in the right direction.
So how do they find the right agent? So
I think we covered that a little bit.
we covered that a little bit, but I think we want everyone to work with us. That's just what we want. However, what we do want to tell you is that there are some key things or red flags or positives that you can see. First of all, any agent that you are coming into contact with, and you're going to meet them in a million different ways. We're all over the place.
Yeah, people have
friends,
family.
Yeah.
The running joke is that people are standing in a line to get into a nightclub, and they say only the people with real estate licenses or real estate cards can get into this nightclub, and everybody in the line has a card.
It doesn't mean that all real estate agents are created equal. You want a real estate agent who studies the market. You want a real estate agent who understands that you come first. And when I say you come first as a client, I mean that your needs come first. Yes, it would be in our best interest for you to buy a house. However, if it's not the right house, our needs don't come first until your needs come first, until you find the right one. If you go to an open house, and I don't know if everyone knows this, when you walk into an open house, at that moment, that person is representing the seller. So if you walk in the house and you say, "Oh, I really, really love this house. I would make top dollar. I would pay top dollar for this house." That person who you're talking to at that moment has to go back and tell the seller, because at that moment they are working with the seller. Now, doesn't mean that you won't not build a relationship with somebody who's in the open house. Ideally, what has to happen is they have to finish what they're doing there and then speak to you at a different time. So just be mindful of that if you're ever in that situation. Anything they're telling you, they have to disclose. They have to make sure that their client, the seller already knows. You want someone who's going to do a buyer consultation with you. We call them strategy sessions, but you want someone to sit down and really understand what your motivations are,
what your wants and needs are,
has a really good understanding of what your goals are. Also be able to tell you how they do business, how they operate. That's important, because if you don't have that conversation, then there might be an impasse on your communication. So you want to make sure that you guys understand how this is going to happen, what the expectations are, and what does it look like if it's not going well. Can you come together and have a conversation? Can you redirect? That's all very important. I think a real estate agent a good one is not going to be offended if you ask for what you want.
Right.
We actually enjoy it when we have clients who know what they want and can be very, articulate what they're looking for.
And just because you tell us that you know what you want at that very moment,
Mhm.
those things can change as we're going through the process if we're looking for the home or your new home. So it's important that we can adapt and redirect and pivot and just go in a different direction as needed. So that's what we're going to do for you. And we're going to figure out like, okay, maybe 1 minute you wanted to live in area A at 123 Main Street, but you know what? You figure out, you know what? I don't want to live in 123 Main Street area. I want to switch it because my job is moving me, and I want to live at 456 Main Street. So that way, you know what? We can make that
Pivot.
adjustment and we can pivot.
Yeah, we can pivot. And I think that we as agents, we're sensitive to what's important to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Setting your criteria and online resources and tools. So we know that everyone has the Zillows of the world and the Redfins. We as agents, we actually have the hub. So just
Multiple listing
multiple listing service. So our multiple listing service is where every agent will put homes for sale. So house goes on the market, the agent puts it into our multiple listing service. When we have a search set up for you, for your criteria, as soon as that agent hits send, that search shows up that house shows up in your search.
if it meets your criteria.
If it meets your criteria. So you're gonna get the up to the minute information. The hub, our MLS, actually is where every other syndicated website gets their information from. Zillow gets their information from there, Redfin gets it. So you're gonna actually know about it probably a few minutes before it even gets out to all the other syndicated websites. So one of the things that we do, we set you on that search immediately after we have our consultation with you. Setting up your criteria, what I like to do, and I know a lot of us on our team does, we walk you through a house. We like you to sit there and mentally talk about what you want to see in that house. It does take about 35 minutes for us to go through that process, but there's a real reason why we do it.
So we call it a mental virtual opening.
Yeah. So we'll say, picture this house. When you walk in, what do you want it to look like? You want an open floor plan? Oh, you want an open floor plan? Why? We want to know why. Because as we're looking at houses, if we see something that makes sense, we want to be able to make sure that we get that in front of you. Also, we would rather take the time and ask you 500 questions and show you 5 houses, or show it's versus asking you 5 questions and showing you 500 houses. Because we don't want to take the chance that we miss the right house for you because we're playing around with houses that don't make sense. So we do a lot of that work up front, just so we get to know you and get to know what's important to you. And that has boded well for all parties concerned, because we get to be able to identify what you're looking for and find the right houses.
Yeah, it puts us all in alignment.
Yep.
So
And yeah, keep going. Oh, making an offer, that's my favorite part.
okay.
So as we walk through the houses, and let's back up a little bit. Once you've identified the criteria that you want, we have a search set up for you. We're gonna schedule a time to see houses. And we can set that up in many, many ways. We can take a day and see several houses. As we go through each house, we're gonna probably debrief after each one and find out, does this make sense? Does this not make sense? And identify what house is what. We are also gonna have moments where we see a great house, just kind of like an impromptu, and we'll call you and say, hey, do you have time to see this home? Or you might see something. We'll make the time to be able to see a home. So let's say we walk into the house and it's your dream home. You're like, this is the one I want. I can't wait to live in this house. I want to make an offer. Okay, so that's when we really get to work. We're not going to reach out to your lender. We're going to have them crunch numbers, meaning that they're going to actually go back through, take that house, identify the taxes, all the parameters, what the rate is today on that home. So I don't know.
They're going to tell you exactly what your payments are going to look like preliminary. They're going to give you a high level estimate based on the information that they have available to them right at that moment.
Right, and one of the things, just to mention, when a lender approves you, they cannot lock you into a rate until you actually have a contract under contract. So it's important that they go back and they tell you what that rate is that day. If they quoted you a rate 2 months ago or a week ago, it may have changed a little bit. So once we have the lender's paperwork, we're gonna actually put the documentation together for you. And then we're gonna sit down and go through it.
And we're gonna review all the paperwork that we have put together, meaning the official offer, the contract, so that way you know exactly what it is that you're offering as far as and we're gonna talk about what the comps are, and we have a couple other different negotiation tips that we're not gonna share here with you because because we want to do that during our one-on-one session with you. So
One of the things that we pride ourselves on is having conversations with other agents and identifying what's winning. What scenarios, what strategies are gonna help you win. And so we share that with you. We also do a lot of intel. We will call the agent
we
who's,
don't want to share everything.
huh?
We don't want to share
We
everything.
don't wanna share that? Okay. Well, let's say we're gonna get some intel for you, so when you're making a decision, you know how the best way to go.
They gotta call us to get all the free tips, all this
Okay.
extra stuff. So.
Lisa, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I know you
Mary,
got-
you wanna share something?
Yeah, I do want to share something because we may have some persons in your class, on your meeting, who may be just thinking of new construction, which I keep going back to. But
Okay.
new construction and making an offer and all that good stuff, wouldn't really apply with making an offer because you're walking in the door. But it could. Can you go back real quick to the last slide?
Absolutely.
It could require some negotiating tips in how you're building your home as you're sitting down with the builder, talking about different ways you want your house to. They may have several different options of what type of home you can, and they may be able to piecemeal the home in the way it makes sense for your family. It also makes sense for your price point, and just doing those step by steps with the builder is very key and important. And even though you won't have to specifically make an offer, once you have designed your home and decided what you wanted, there will be a contract phase that's automatic. But with that contract phase, just like if your offer was accepted with the sale of a sale of an existing home, yes, you would sit down and look at the contract and go step by step to make sure that everything that you discussed and negotiated in that meeting with your builder is fluently understood in your contract. So that is what we could do as your agent to work for you if you are doing new construction.
Yeah, because you raise a good point there, Mary. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but like, you know what, when you go into a situation where it's a new construction home, that person that's sitting on the other side, they may or may not be an agent, but again, they work for the builder. So again, when you have an agent that's working for you, we're going into that situation, into that negotiation phase or that design phase or whatever phase that you're in that new construction as an advocate for you. So we're going to speak up on your behalf. And we're going to ask those tough questions. There's a lot of times as human beings, we get into a situation where we're talking to somebody that has something that we want, and we tend to shy up or pull away from asking those hard questions or those difficult questions because we don't want to ruffle any feathers. But as your agent, we're there to ruffle feathers if we have to, and we're going to ask those questions that you may not even think about asking. We're going to remind you of those things, and we're going to ask the questions that you told us were important to you during your consultation. We're going to make sure that those questions get addressed.
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that when we're talking about new construction, also be mindful what promotions they're having in that new construction. A lot of times those promotions are geared toward working with their lender. And one of the questions that we ask is if there's a discount or a promotion that's happening, who's giving that promotion? Sometimes it's coming directly from the lender. So yeah, they want you to use their lender. Sometimes it's not coming directly from the lender, and you're still able to use your preferred lender with your rates and the way you want it, and still get some of the kickbacks or promotions that they get. Promotions that they get. You know,
Promotions.
I don't know, it's not a kickback. So we also find that out too, because we also want you to take the notes. You know, they're giving you what, a $50,000 basement, but you have to use that lender. But if that lender's rates are going to be so crazy, or fees are going to be so crazy, we may want to look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah, because a lot of times apples to apples aren't apples to apples. You could have a red delicious apple, or you could have a green Granny Smith apple. Or sour apple. We want to make sure that you know what your apples you're getting.
And what does that mean
for you?
And just so you know, if you walk into a new construction and they tell you you can't have an agent, that is not true. You can always have an agent.
Representation.
Huh?
Representation.
Representation, yes. It doesn't change any of the promotions, criteria, terms of the transaction. It does not change just because you have representation versus not having representation. So get representation.
So talk about the home inspection. So once you settled on that offer, your offer has been accepted, and get everything rolling. We're going to insist that you have a home inspection. Why is it necessary to have a home inspection?
It's the best way you can find out about your home. It's a health check. Why, you know, it's a physical.
So yeah, it's an actual physical for the home itself. So the home inspector, they're going to be licensed, bonded, and they're going to understand like how the different pieces of the home work. Now they don't have an X-ray machine, so they can't go behind walls and tell you what's going on behind the walls. But anything that's right there in front of you, they're going to test it and make sure that everything is working properly. And the good thing about you being there when the home inspection is taking place is that the home inspector can show you like something as simple as shutting off the water. What happens if you buy this new home the first day and it was and the water was turned off, and then and because the person that had the water turned off, they did a good job of making sure that hot water tank was empty, but they left that valve for that hot water tank open. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. And then you have water coming out everywhere. You got to know how to turn off the water.
So the home inspector is going to be there to show you how that happens.
Yeah.
So,
but you know, there is a time when a home inspector does have an X-ray.
Oh, okay.
In new construction. So one of the things that we encourage our clients to do, if you're buying a new construction home, get a home inspector to do 2 inspections. One before the drywall goes up, and the second part will be after the drywall is up, and then you're doing your regular finals.
I thought you were going to talk about the infrared that they use.
They do have an infrared.
With the water, they can check for water and stuff like that.
And it's important. So a lot of times you'll think, wow, I don't need a home inspection. This house is brand new. Well, believe it or not, I think every new construction home inspection I've ever been on, they have a laundry list of things that need to be looked at, repaired, adjusted. The crazy thing about it is most people don't get the home inspection, so they don't know all that stuff that was behind the scenes.
Yeah, because here's a for instance for you, real quick story. We had a client that had a brand new home being built, and one of the things was like with had the plumbing being installed, and there was a pipe that was coming from the tub, and the way that it was supposed to go, the plumber used I don't know, like a old technique that was acceptable in the past, but according to the updated standards, it didn't fit. And so we had the home inspector that went through and checked it and said, hey, you know what, because with new construction with new construction, a lot of times they're going to use trades. So they're going to have different people that come in and do things a certain way. And it's like the home inspector is going to tell you, he's going to be abreast to whatever the newest and updated standards are.
The codes, yeah.
The codes are for how different things are supposed to go in the house, from electrical to plumbing to all the things that are behind the scenes.
So I think it's imperative that you get the home inspection done during new construction. It just gives you peace of mind, you know that house from inside and out. And here's the thing, not every builder is gonna wanna change every single thing that's cited, but they should be able to explain why they did what they did.
And then that way the home inspector can tell you if that answer is acceptable or unacceptable. And then that way you can make an informed decision on moving forward.
Cause once the walls are up, you have no way of knowing. So,
Well, until somebody comes in and has to take the wall down.
yeah, and then you find out.
Jack Cooper.
But one of the things, we hadn't got all the way through the
Oh,
inspection.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so one of the things about the inspections, what happens is that inspection will happen, you'll get a report. This book, it's a book when it's really done. It's probably about 20, 30 pages if you got a good home inspector. It's not only citing things that are incorrect about your home, but it's also citing maintenance things, things that you just need to know. It's a great education. I have several clients that will use their home inspection report as like a check system. We buy an older home, they may have seen things in it they want to change or update, but they're like, oh, I'll do it later. Now they have a book, they can go right back to it. It explains everything that needs to be done, and then they can just pick the things that they want to have. And they use that as their leverage to make sure that their house is in working order, especially if they're working through things. Now, there are things that need to be repaired on the house. In resale, you could actually ask the seller to repair some of these things or ask for a credit, depending on what it is.
Because everything's a negotiation.
Everything's a negotiation. I'm of the mindset, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I will ask every single time. And in new construction, there's a little bit of, not necessarily repairing things, but maybe they may have not shored something up the way that the home inspector says. I don't think it hurts to ask them, hey, can you make sure that that is shored up? For instance, if something's going on with the floors and they need to be shored up so you don't have a lot of bounce in them, we want to get that taken care of. But that's where your agent comes in to make sure that those things happen and those concerns are addressed.
That's how I learned what a squish block is.
Oh yeah, because squish blocks. If in a resale home, if the house isn't to your liking, let's say you go through the home inspection, you ask for repairs, they say no kick bricks, we're not gonna do anything, then you get a choice. You get to decide if the house is really the house you want. In new construction, not so much. Once you kind of sign with them, it's kind of tough. But usually most new construction will work with you. I will tell you from personal account, if you do have an agent with you, they tend to be a lot more pliable. Because at the end of the day, and I'm not saying that we're so great, but what
Yes, you are, and we are.
yeah, but what I do know is this, we have a lot more reach than the average day consumer. So if I walk into a new construction and they gave my client a hard time, I'm gonna tell every agent that I know for the rest of my life how terrible they are. That holds a lot of weight. So a lot of times builders recognize that, and so they want to make sure things are good with all parties.
So moving on to the appraisal.
Mhm.
I'm gonna leave this one for you.
Me,
Yeah.
the appraisal? Okay, so the appraisal is the bank's way of identifying if the house is valued at the amount of money that they are going to loan you for the loan. The appraisal is the bank's way of bringing down their risk.
So I guess in layman's term, it would be like, saying like, I put in an offer for a house that's $400,000. There's somebody gonna come out and tell me that house is worth.
$400,000. If it is, a bank will not give you money if it doesn't match. They're not gonna give you more money than what a house is worth.
So if that same house that I put an offer in, for $400,000 came back and they said it was only worth $390,000, the bank's only gonna give me a loan for $390,000.
Correct. And so what they're gonna do is, we now have to go back to the negotiation.
Everything's a negotiation.
Everything's a negotiation. We're probably gonna ask that seller, can they reduce their price? And get it down to the price that it is. One other thing that they do is they check the house for safety issues. So we have three types of loans, major loans that we use. We have FHA, we have VA, and we have conventional. FHA is a guaranteed mortgage and so is VA. So when that appraiser goes out, they have a list of things that the VA and the FHA want checked to make sure that the house is in working order. And when I mean working order, I mean, they want to make sure there's no reason you can't pay your mortgage. You don't have a handrail on your steps. You walk down the steps, you fall down, you break your leg. You're not going to work, so therefore you're not going to pay your mortgage. So they check for things like that. If there's not working, the heat doesn't work. Heat has to work because if you won't stay in a house that has no heat. So therefore you're going to go move to somewhere else, pay that rent, and then let this house just sit there and therefore not pay the rent. So what the appraiser, they have two jobs. One, they want to make sure the value is correct, but two, they want to make sure the house is safe and functioning. That can be a benefit for you as a buyer because they're going to make sure you're not going to buy a bad investment. If there's paint and craziness going on, the appraiser is going to note that, and that either has to be remedied or we have to come up with some reason, some way to work around that.
Satisfied.
Yes, has to be satisfied.
So how does it affect your mortgage?
You won't get it. If the appraisal, you will not get a mortgage if the appraisal isn't coming in. Now, here's what happens. Let's say in that scenario that Lonnie gave us, $400,000 house, it appraises for $390,000. Now, in a market that we've been in the last few years, we have seen buyers say, well, I like the house so much, I'm just gonna pay the extra $10,000
Out of pocket.
out of pocket, in addition to what I'm putting down. You have every right to do that, but as your agent, what we're gonna say to you is, are you sure you wanna do that?
Yeah.
Because what you're probably doing is you're buying a house with no equity.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, you're buying no equity. Now, if you say, hey, Lisa, I'm gonna be in this house for the next 20 years. You know what? That's not a big deal because as you're paying down your mortgage and you're
Building equity.
you're building equity and you're paying down your mortgage at the same time. But if you say, hey, Lisa, I'm only gonna be here 5 years because we have plans to move down south, then I might say, this is not a great idea because 5 years isn't enough time.
Right, and we're gonna do the research to be able to give you that informed answer, because you know what, like, in 2008, there were a lot of people that found themselves in what we call underwater.
Mhm.
And you know what, at that given moment, their houses weren't worth what they actually paid for them. So many that they had negative equity in their houses, but those same houses today they may have like an extra, their equity may have flipped because the areas that they're in, the location, and 3 L's of real estate are location, location, location. The location may have improved, so that way, we once had negative equity, now has a great deal of equity. So we're going to help you plan that out and help you
Right.
figure if you do make the decision to come out of pocket with the offset, whatever that difference may be in an appraisal. We're going to tell you what the pros and the cons of it are.
And
Right.
knock on wood, I don't, okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think as a group we've had one buyer have to pay out of pocket.
I have one that had to pay $500.
Oh, $500.
They split the difference.
And there's a reason for that. Before you put an offer in on a house, we actually do the work to find out what we think the house is gonna appraise for. Because we don't want you walking into a situation where
We're putting an offer that's way over.
it's way over, because some of these houses will get really high and we're like, well, how's it gonna appraise? At the end of the day, the appraisal comes out, then we're right back at square one again. And we don't want our clients to spend money on a home inspection, on appraisal, just to find out that they really can't pay the difference. So when we're doing helping you make the offer, we're looking at that. We'll tell you, this is the top price that we see that it's gonna go.
In our opinion.
In our
Again,
opinion.
we're not appraisers.
No, we're not appraisers. We do have some wiggle room here, but we want you to be aware, like
Right.
this could happen. And if it could happen, do we have a plan in place if it does?
So Mary, you had something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say about the plan in place. This is possible that we can write that into the offer if we felt like you absolutely want this home for whatever reason. And if we say, hey, this is the cost market analysis that we're going to give you to compare other homes and what your offer basis, what we think that the appraisal may come at, we could always build in that safety cushion, as in, hey, if it appraises under this much, you're willing to pay 50%. You can do that of the difference. You could do that well in advance. Also, when you think about appraisal value, and if you're willing to uh, foot the bill for the remainder, the remainder, is also based on, hey, location. Is this where I want to be? Is this home in a place that's up and coming? Will there be other homes in the future that's going to make this a valuable $10,000? Is it right up the street from where I work and I can ride my bike to work versus driving a car and I'm saving on gas? Is it in a location where my kids have to go to school? These things are where you would consider, is it worth me paying the extra $5,000 or $10,000 over the appraisal price? Because at the end, over time, it's going to meet the value that you need.
Yeah, we did have, you know what, I take that back, we did have one that it didn't appraise. However, this particular client was putting down a very large down payment. And we were able to work with the lender to renegotiate what she was putting down to be able to offset the difference. Because her house was in an up and coming area and it was appreciating very rapidly. So, but usually we take in partners, we call the lender, we bring you into it and we figure out what makes sense.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't make sense, then we know what we need to do to be able to get out of it.
So dollars make sense, but cents don't make sense.
Okay,
Something like that.
all right, keep it moving. All right, so after you've had your home inspection, then you've had your appraisal. There's a lot of behind the scenes and things happening on your behalf. So this is kind of like the steps to the closing process. You have your lender working on the back end. They are getting you through underwriting. They're making sure that the loan is coming through. They're doing their part. They may be asking you 150 questions. Any paperwork they ask you for, keep a copy of it and kind of just put it in a little folder. Put it in a folder, and we're gonna keep going through for a minute. And
We need to evacuate.
we need to evaluate.
We do. So
Mary, do you mind taking over?
Yeah, I mean, I can't do this.
Well,
I
how
can't.
I'm gonna share.
how about we just pause it for now? Pause it, and we can pick up in a minute.
I'm just gonna make Mary a co-host.
Yeah, but you can't move the slides and everything.
Is it for real? We don't know.
Yeah, I see pause it.
Well, hopefully everybody can hold on for just a minute as we run downstairs.
We'll hold on a minute. We got a few minutes. Yes, thumbs up. We'll hold on.
You'll hold on?
Yes.
Okay, talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I don't have to. I'm gonna sit right there.
So if there's anybody who, Kenya, if you're on the line, did you have any questions so far?
Okay, can you hear me?
All right,
Yes.
we're back.
No, that's how the people ended up in the towering inferno, because they say, is this a test or is it real? And then they get stuck. They're like, I ain't getting stuck. I'm gone.
That was pretty quick.
You literally could jump out the window.
I'm not jumping out the windows. That's how people break legs.
Okay, so it looks like Kenya might have had a quick question. Quick, Kenya.
Sure. Go ahead, Kenya.
Hi there. Yes, it was a quick question. When Mary was talking about new construction, and so you mentioned something about the incentives that you can receive with going with the builder's lender, right? and
Yes.
comparing if you were to go with a regular lender. So as a buyer, would you like consider, I guess if another lender has a lower interest rate, would that be the main thing you would be looking at? Or what else would you be doing to compare
Well, I think there's
lender fees and things like that too?
Yeah, I would look at the lender fees.
and there's a couple of key factors that you want to take a look at, because like what we were saying before is that, apples to apples isn't always the same apples. So there's a few things that few questions that you probably should ask, and those similar questions. Right?
Yeah, so I think what the fees are, so, and also, when let's say they're giving you $20,000 toward a basement. And,
Closing costs out.
or a closing
To
cost.
help buy down the rate. That's
What,
a lot of them do.
a lot of times that is considered a lender credit. And usually with all lender credit, there's a slight bump in the rate. So if a regular person is getting 6%, you might be getting 6.25. It's not a lot, but we want to make sure you know about it and what that means. So that's how a lender is able to give any type of credit, is that they have to have,
It has to be accounted for.
it has to be accounted for, it has to be something in their numbers. So if you look at that and you're like, okay, this is fine, this makes sense to me, great. But if it doesn't, you just want to know what it makes. Like, know if the numbers add up.
If the dollars make sense.
Yes.
So I wanted to kind of give Kenya an example. So if for example, a builder is giving a free rec room, which could be about 20,000, and they plan to give you a $10,000 credit on help with closing costs. So you're looking at $30,000 from the builder, right? And they said, hey, we're going to give you this if you use our title and lender. Now, what you need to do is, if you, in any case or in other people's cases, they've already, say you were hunting for a resale home before, and you worked with a traditional lender, you would look at the traditional lender's rate that they provided you, and you would look at what that lender's fees are. Correct, Lisa?
Yeah, you look at the fees.
Now you want to go back also and look at the new lender that you're working with, who is the builder's lender, and you want to see the rate, compare that with the rate that they gave you, plus whatever their fees may be. And that is, you can kind of calculate, hey, the difference between those two, if it meets the $30,000 and
I would say that the other thing is that
upgrades they may be giving you.
So the other thing is that we can put together a list of questions that you could we can consult, and that way we can put together a list of questions that you could use as your interview for both lenders, because there's certain key factors that you're going to want to be able to write down, because everybody's going to give you extra stuff. But there's certain things that you want to talk to them about, like the rate, what the fees are, stuff like that. We want to be able to give you like a check sheet, so that way you can write down lender A, this is what they're offering, and then lender B, this is what they're offering. So that way you can literally take apples to apples and see what they compare to and what they look like.
And also, every lender can give, and they're required to do this, to give you a worksheet.
Called this TILA.
Well, it's a district estimate, but they can give you a worksheet and break down every single number. What people don't realize is that they'll speak to one lender and the rate will be one thing. And then they'll speak to another lender and it may be a point lower. But what they don't realize is that to get that point lower, they're charging you an extra fee to reduce the rate.
That you're paying for out of pocket up front.
And you're paying for it. It's all part of your closing costs. So that's where we say, when you talk to the lenders, have them do a worksheet, both of them, and then line them up. And then we can be there to help you with questions that you might ask on what they can do and what they can't do. It may make sense to go with the builder's lender. If they're gonna give you such a great deal, they're gonna take care of something that's important. Also, you wanna look at what they're doing, what the bonus or whatever they're giving you, is it worth it? Because again, if you get a basement refinished in a new construction, it's expensive. versus you, they're working on it, so we're gonna probably just keep going. It's expensive, whereas you can get someone else to do your basement for cheaper. So you just wanna make sure that it all makes sense. And any lender should be comfortable with you looking at their numbers. They should be able to tell you the origin of the store, of their numbers.
So Kenya, did we answer your question?
Yes, you did. I guess my situation is unique in that we also have to consider the type of loan that we're getting. And I don't want to be, too specific, because I know there's other people in the room and things like that. But if you have a permanent construction loan, so it's going to be it's going to convert to a permanent loan. So the lender is telling you the fee may be higher in the beginning, but then once the rates go down, then your rate can be lower. So that's something you have to factor in as well.
Correct, and that is true with the construction term loans. They're a little different than the regular product, but you do have a little bit more wiggle room there. Whereas if somebody was just getting a new construction loan and not have that, once they got locked in, they were locked in. But for you, you could float a little bit.
Right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
No problem. And so what were we talking about? So we were talking about escrow and like the closing process. So there will be a time during this process where you'll hear nothing from anyone except for your agent. Back end stuff is happening with your lender, but also your title company. The title is preparing your home for it to be transferred from the first person to the second person. And what they're doing is they're clearing the title. They're checking all liens, they're checking taxes, they're checking anything that could hold up this title being clear. In the state of Maryland, you cannot transfer a home without clear title.
So think about it like a chain. So each time the house is being sold or transferred is another link in the chain. So the title company is going to make sure that chain has all the links are linking together. So they should be able to trace that property from the very first person who ever owned it all the way to you, and there should be no breaks in the chain.
Right. And so now once they've cleared the title, and this is really important, once they've cleared the title, they will offer you title insurance. We're going to encourage you to get title insurance. And there's
two types of title insurance.
Yeah, there's the enhanced, and then there's just the
Basic.
The basic. We will tell you to get the enhanced because that covers you from fraud. That covers you for anything that could come up. Maryland is a very unique state. Anyone can put a lien on anything. So let's just say you bought new construction and the builder didn't pay one of their contractors. That contractor could turn around and put a lien on that house. You won't know about it until you go to sell your house or refinance, and then it pops up. If you have title insurance is a one-time fee that you pay at closing. You have it for the life of the house that you have the house. It will cover that disgruntledness or whatever is going on.
So that means that they'll go to court on my behalf.
They'll go to court on your behalf. You won't come out with a dime out of pocket to fight this, because whether you're right or wrong, you still would have to go through the process. They handle everything, and we've seen title insurance do quite a bit for clients. We've seen this in resale houses as well. You bought a house that was rehab, the owner didn't pay the contractor got upset, they put a lien on the house, that person lives in it for 5 years, they go to sell it, now this lien is there. Call title insurance, it wasn't there when the title was cleared, they're gonna cover it, they're gonna take care of it for you. And so that's one thing that will come up. Land disputes, so they will encourage you to get a survey of your property line, so you know exactly what's happening. There's a lot of houses.
There's no encumbrances.
Yeah, there's a lot of houses that have, gentlemen's agreements on land, or you want to know where your easement is if you have conservation land behind you. And you'll know exactly what your house, what you own. And that comes down to like when you put up a fence and things that you want to do with your property, you want to know exactly what that
And when
is.
you're looking at the paperwork, it's going to call it a drawing, but that's what that is.
Yeah, and then So as you're closing, there's a couple things happening. The lender's doing their closing part. Once they call what they call it a clear to close, they will determine with the title company what your actual closing costs are. When you get that estimate from the lender in the beginning, they actually estimate more than sometimes than what actually is going to be your closing costs. Your closing costs are your taxes, any prepaid fees. So for instance, your homeowner's insurance, they will have you prepay your homeowner's insurance by 3 to 4 months. So they have a slush fund. So when it's due, they always have enough money to pay your insurances. They will also look at any title fees, any lender fees, all will be part of the closing costs. Before you go to closing your home, your lender will schedule a time with you to go through those numbers with you. Usually it's right after they have reconciled it with the title company. So you know exactly what money you're bringing to the table, and you know exactly what your fees are, what you charge, you know, what they are. And they actually line it up by law. They have to line it up from their estimate to what the final numbers are. And usually, if all goes well, that estimate was a little bit higher than what your closing numbers were. And so we get a copy of that. Your title company has a copy, your lender has a copy, you have a copy. And so we all look at that to make sure that there's no mistakes. If there was a credit that was supposed to come to you, we're gonna make sure that was on there. If there was maintenance, something that was taken care of and the seller was taking care of, we're gonna make sure that's there. If there's a home warranty that was paid for, it's gonna show up on that closing as paid by the seller. In new construction, it may look a little different because they have a lot of builder's warranties, but they do actually have a builder booklet that you get that actually gives you all your rights and responsibilities in reference to every piece of the puzzle. And so you'll know, you should know at least the day before what is being paid, what isn't being paid, because if you have money that you have to deposit for this, they usually give it to you a day ahead of time so you can have it wired or a cashier's check. Anybody else want to add anything to that? I guess I'll keep going. So I kind of touched on it a little bit about the different insurances and what's important. So homeowners insurance is very important. This is basically if your house burns down or something happens with it. Something happens with it, you're protected. If you have a loan, you are required to have homeowners insurance. If you decide not to pay your homeowners insurance, the lender will assign you homeowners insurance, which will be really, really expensive. Hence why when you pay your mortgage, there's usually an escrow that is started so they can make sure that your homeowners insurance is covered. As I mentioned before, title insurance is a one-time fee that's wrapped into your closing costs, but that protects your house as far as the title is concerned. So, other things, moving tips, prepare to move, checklist for moving. We do have all those pieces of the puzzle to help you move. We give suggestions about moving. I, for one, tell my clients, if they're thinking about moving, get a suitcase, pack everything for a week, and have that suitcase kind of set aside from everything else, because it's going to take you a good week to move. So you want to make sure you have all your important things, medicines and things of that. Things that that you want to have with you right away. Questions to ask your real estate agent and your lender. So if you're shopping for either one, ask them for real world situations of how they handle a problem or handle a situation. What's their communication style? You know, rates are rates. Everyone starts out with the rate. But each lender has their ways that they can manipulate to get a better rate for you. But find out what they're doing to get you that rate. It's all legal, but you want to find out what what that means and what that means to you. When it comes to a real estate agent, you can ask them how much business they've done. You can ask them their experience. However, be very mindful. You want to know, not necessarily, it doesn't matter how many houses they've sold, it's how have they cared for their clients. And I think that really comes a long way. You can have someone who's done 200 houses, but they don't know any of their clients' names. And so you want to make sure that person is the advocate and ask them for examples where they have advocated for their clients. Same thing with the lender. Ask them for examples where they've solved problems in a situation. And I think that's important because they'll be on their toes, their P's and Q's when you ask that. Let's see. So, final tips, any key takeaways? I think that this is a journey. You are choosing your team to work with you, and you get to choose who's going to be on your team. Your real estate agent, your lender, your title company. Those are all people who are going to be working on your behalf. There's several things behind the scenes that are happening, and your real estate agent is really the quarterback of all that. They're making sure that the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. They're there as your confidant and your advocate to make sure that the process runs smoothly. So I think that's all I have. Does anyone else have any other questions in the audience? Or on Zoom, does anyone have any questions? Or comments, Mary, Emily?
Yeah, I do have one comment. It says, whoever's on this meeting, and a lot of times we have experience with we've purchased a home before or we've sold a home before. However, that might have been 15 years ago. It could have been 5 years ago. As you can see, the market is consistently changing, and it's important that you have an agent and lender who's advocating for the time where you are currently in your life and location. Sometimes we watch the news, we see what's going on in the housing market across the world. That may not be what's happening in your neck of the woods. So this why it's so important to have all of this stuff that you've heard through this class today, you might have heard before, but there may be things that you've been able to take out of it based on your particular situation that appeals to you and say, hey, I didn't know that. That was good to know. Let me use that. And this is why we have these meetings. And the next topic we'll send that out to everyone that's on this meeting and our whole database for the next thing. So you always want, whenever it's an opportunity to get more information on any subject, you can come to us and get that information.
That's a good point, Mary. A lot of times we give real world situations.
Mm-hmm.
So we might do this in 6 months and we're having a different conversation about what's happening in the world. And so we can give you that intel because we do study the market at a micro level. Because that way we can instruct our clients on what they need to do or what we foresee is happening. So I think that's it. I thank you guys so much for coming on this snowy day. And for those of you who jumped on Zoom, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun just to kind of get everyone's juices going, and we look forward to helping everyone purchase their next home.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the snow day.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.